Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue talking about my current project of making a combat system or coding the combat system for a viewer's game. In particular, I'd like to talk about finishing up when the player character or a companion achieve a very high attack roll, which this system calls a long success. So the equivalent of what other games often call a critical hit. There are 4 personas in the game, which are basically the character classes, and each one of these personas has a different result that happens when they do a long success. And in my previous video, I talked about 2 of the 4, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the other 2. There is an important caveat, and that is that the influencer's long success result only works for their allies. So if the player character achieves a long success and is an influencer, then that gives help to the companions, and if a companion achieves a long success who is an influencer, that'll give a bonus to either the player character or any other companions. And that means that it's not possible to fully test it yet because we've only done the code for the player character's move. We haven't done the code for the companion deciding to move. We've done the code that will be used for when they attack, which is in here. This is the same. We're using a single passage which covers both the player character attacking and a companion attacking, but we haven't done the code, which will be in here, which is the companion deciding whether they want to attack or whether they want to move away or forward, and if they want to attack, which attack they want to do, and so on. So if you spot some horrible mistake in the code that's related to the influencer's bonus, you might be right. It might be that there's some problem with it that will cause it to not work, which I haven't yet been able to test, so please let me know. But I have tested that one as best I can, and I have tested the other one fully, and it definitely does work. So both of these need a new variable, one new variable each. And so I've set up 2 new arrays. So let's look at those first. One of them is $bonus_warrior, so $bonus_WARRIOR, and the other one is bonus_influencer, so BONUS_INFLUENCER, and they're both arrays, and they both use the same convention that we've been using for a lot of other variables, which is that 0 refers to the player character and positive numbers refer to companions. So slot 1 is companion 1 and slot 2 is companion 2. So I should, maybe I should specify that, but it may be obvious because of that's what we've been doing in a lot of other things. So let's go to PC side attacks, which is where most of the code is. All right, so we're scrolling past. You might have noticed a bit of code that's new, but I'll get to that next because that will make more sense if I do what I'm about to do first. Okay, so here we have the section where someone on the player character's side is attacking, and they have indeed scored a long success, which is indicated by Y3, which is the place where we store the sort of final result, being greater than 9. So the ones we're looking at, and then we have a split, based on the value of Y, and Y is the persona, i.e. the character class of the character that is doing the attack currently. So the one we want to look at is if Y equals 1, and the other one we want to look at is if Y equals 4. We've done 2 and 3. We did those in the previous video. So if Y equals 1, we set bonus underscore warrior, square bracket, dollars INI underscore WHO plus equals 3. So we add 3 to the slot that is related to this character, because INI underscore who stands for initiative who, so who's currently acting. We look at the relevant slot in the bonus warrior array, and we set that to 3 more than its current value. Once again, we don't set it to 3, we increase it by 3 because it's possible, though unlikely, that a warrior might get 2 of these bonuses or even more before there's a damage roll against them. All right, so having set that up, and what it does is it subtracts from the next damage roll against that character. So to see its effect, we need to go to enemy strikes, and we need to go down to the part that deals with the enemy having hit and working out their damage. And this is the line that we've already seen where we reduce the damage by the armor that the character has. Then we look at bonus underscore warrior Z. And if that one is greater than 0, which will only happen for warriors because no other class has any way of getting this particular bonus, it's a class specific or persona specific bonus. If it's greater than 0, we're going to reduce the damage by that. So we give the message minus whatever it is. So let's say 3, that would be the most likely result. Minus 3 for the warrior's long success bonus. We reduce Z2 by that amount, and then because it's not an ongoing thing, it's a one-off, we set bonus underscore warrior Z equal to 0. The other thing we need to do, because a warrior might get a bonus in a combat, but then the combat ends, well, they don't get to carry it over to the next combat. It's only in this particular combat. So in this, player has 1 page, which again, we haven't done all the code for this by a long shot, but we have sort of started doing some. One of the things we need to do is we reset the warrior bonus to 0 for every slot from 0 to com underscore max, which is the maximum number of companions. You'll notice that we do the same thing with the influencer bonus, which we'll be talking about next, because again, they also don't carry over. All right, so let's talk about the influencer getting a long success. Have I? No, I haven't got to it yet. Okay, so that's if y equals 4. Again, the code is fairly straightforward. We set bonus underscore influencer plus equals 3, so increase it by 3. Sorry, I didn't say at the beginning, but we need to set these to arrays so that all of the slots that we might use start at 0 rather than starting at undefined. So we do that with a for loop that goes from 0 to com underscore max, again the maximum number of companions, and we set armor Z to 0, and we do the same with bonus warrior and bonus influencer Z, sorry, in both cases. All right, so back to this. The influencer's long success bonus is increased by 3. It works in a different way. Influencers add their sexy score, so because we're characterizing this as, well, they get to add their sexy score, which is the one that has a value of 3, but I've talked with the person whose game this is going to be to say, well, do their scores ever change? Is it always going to be 3? If it wasn't always going to be 3, I'd have to look at what the score currently was, and he said, no, you can just count it as 3 every time. But we're conceiving of it as, well, this is the influencer's sort of charisma score, basically the equivalent to a charisma score, although it's called sexy in this. They add their sexy score to attack rolls by allies, which means the influencer themselves can't benefit from it. Only if they're a companion, only other companions and the player character, or if they're a player character, only companions can benefit from it. So among other things, that means that if you have an influencer by themselves, if the player character is an influencer and has no companions, any bonuses they get for a long success are going to be wasted. It also might mean that you can have two influences that are sort of helping each other out. Like, let's say one influencer gets a long success. Well, that will enable another influencer to add 3 to their roll. And if they add 3 to their roll, they're more likely to get a long success themselves. So that might enable them to help the other influencer, if that makes sense. And so you might get an advantage that's sort of going back and forth. Now, I think it's probably going to be a long time before an influencer gets a long success, because they don't necessarily have great combat attributes. So this might not be, terribly powerful. It might not happen all that often, but that's just a thing I thought of that we'll have to sort of look out for when we're testing, when we've done the whole combat system and we're testing everything for sort of unintended outcomes. That might be something we look for. But anyway, we increase bonus underscore influencer Z, the Z slot of that array, by 3. And then that happens on this page because it's attack rolls by player characters or companions. And it happens in this section here, which is new. So we've got Y3, which is the total result of the roll. It's 2 dice plus a attribute minus the sneaky score of the target. Well, now we see if there's any allies of this character who have this influencer bonus. So we have X3, a for loop that goes from 0 to com underscore max, and we activate it if there are 2 criteria that are met. 1, X3 does not equal INI underscore who, because an influencer can't benefit from their own bonus, and the bonus underscore influencer score in slot X3 is greater than 0. In that case, we add that amount to the roll. We say something like +3 for either player character or companion 2's influencer long success bonus. And then we set that amount to 0. And then we go on with the other penalties. And then it gives the new total. And as I've shown you before, but it's worth showing you again, we have to set that to 0 at the end of the combat, because it's not carried over from one combat to the next. We do that when the player has won, because if the player loses, well, they're dead, so the bonuses don't matter, the game stops. And the other possible outcome is perhaps that the players run away, but we haven't yet coded how running away is going to work. So obviously we'll have to do the same thing when we get to it, which might mean that we don't copy this code, but instead we have this on its page, and we call that page on this page. We include the link to the page with this code on this page. And then we do so on the passage where the player characters run away. But having done those two, we've now done all 4 of the of our side's long success bonuses. We've also done the monsters. So what I'm going to do next is the companions deciding what they want to do, and that decision will probably work in a very similar way to how the monsters do it, which is choosing an attack that they can make at random, and then if that's not possible, moving towards or away from the enemies. After that, we have to do there's a number of things, but the thing I'm probably going to work on next is the player character. One of the choices that the player can make for the player character is for them to talk to their companions, to tell them to do particular things. So that might be what I do next time. Another thing with companions is that there is a sort of morale score, or a score of how much they respect the player character. So I'll have to refresh my mind about how those rules work and before I start coding. But anyway, that's all for the future. For now, I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.